Hey, it's Saturday, August 3rd, 2019, and this is the Pro and the Con Show with your host, Michael James Ott. Welcome to the show. So try to do 15 to 20 minutes every day. This is actually a bit of a makeup show. It's going out live at 11:40 something in the AM Central Time on Sunday, actually, to make up for a show that I missed last night. It normally airs at 6 p.m. live on Facebook Live. But went to a movie with my lovely wife. Anyway, so the intent of the show is to, talk, try to get us to listen to each other, listen to opposing views, and I think in general, the quick summary is to try to absorb and take in the truth, the pro and the con, the good and the bad, the for and against, hence the pro and con show. And so many of the shows, I'll look through the different websites. There's 5 different ones, and I'll look at the information that's on there and try to point out how they're biasing the information by the way they're presenting it, or the fact they're not presenting it at all compared to other information streams and so on. But today, I want to talk about, we've had at least 2 more mass shootings here in the last handful of days. And so the topic for today's show is guns in America. What I want to do is, so I'll start off by a little bit of a personal thing. So I don't own a gun. I'm not averse to people owning guns. I don't own one. I think they're too dangerous. So this is a factual show, so I want to, the fact is that modern guns, modern weapons, rifles, handguns, and shotguns, they are incredibly powerful, well-crafted killing devices. It's what they are. They are incredibly effective. The amount of energy that comes out of the barrel of that gun with the bullet or the round as it's coming out, the energy and the repeatability of the accuracy at which it comes out, and our modern capabilities as far as sighting. I mean, you can. It is. They are incredibly incredible pieces of engineering. Basically, as an engineer in training, by training, I can really appreciate that, and I do, and I think some handful of people that own guns, they appreciate them just from the standpoint of that engineering. But the key point for me is that they are so well engineered that they are really incredibly efficient killing tools. Okay, much so than compared to 200 or 300 years ago when some of our Constitution and other stuff was adapted. But anyway, I do appreciate though that guns have usefulness and purpose. One of the biggest ones is one of the main intents from the Constitution. It's to make sure that if there's a foreign invader of some kind, or some kind of issue internal to the country, that there were some guns with a well-regulated militia that could hopefully throw off that danger to our democracy. But so let's talk about guns. And if I were president, I would hold a joint session of Congress or request one, and then we'd go through a handful of days of, here are some facts around guns. Currently this is guns, how much they cost. Probably have some videotape demonstrations of just the incredible energy that these rounds transfer into whatever is being shot by them, and so on. and then, talk about, well, what's good and bad about everything that we know, the facts, right? And then, the good things, okay, how do we protect those, the good things? And then the bad things, what are some proposed ways to address them? And then finally, okay, let's sift through all this and come up with our policy. And we're going to try, write some laws and enact this policy for 3 years, and then revisit it in 3 years, and with the intent of looking at what is working and what isn't, and keeping what's working and alternating what isn't. Okay, so a very systematic, well-founded approach. But the main thing is that to educate, to take the time to get us all on the same place, get us all on the same page is a colloquialism that people say. Let's get all on the same page. And right now, that's never done. Never. No one makes any attempt whatsoever. Whether you're talking about, budgets or taxes or gun ownership or abortion or no one takes the time on a national level to say this is what this means. Here's the data, here's the information. Let's take a couple of days and understand where we are. Let's get on the same page. Well, I'm going to do a shortened version of that, just because I would like to talk a little bit about this. And again, I strongly encourage all of us to be better citizens, to take a little bit of time to consider these issues and learn more about them. Hence, this is what I'm doing. Okay, so I found a couple of articles. The one I'm going to read from is from the BBC, and it's called America's Gun Culture in 10 Charts. So basically, I just wanted to so just some very quick figures here, and I haven't fact-checked BBC. All right, I don't suspect that they have any real reason to lie per se. Maybe the facts and figures are off by a little bit, but they don't feel like they are. So Canada, like the gun-related killings as a percent of homicides in the U.S., it's 64%. So almost 2/3 of homicides in our country come using guns in some form or manner. In the UK, it's only 4.5%. So it's a huge difference, a factor of 10 difference. We own many more guns than other countries. So we own approximately 120 guns per 100 residents. So about 1.2 guns per person. That's for every man, woman, and child in the United States of America, roughly. The next highest country is Yemen, a country that has been at civil war for several years. And they have, looks like just over 50%, or 50 guns per 100. So about a half a gun per person in Yemen. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this chart over because we've had the mass shootings, and this is, of course, one of the big things that we want to talk about. They make the news a lot, and that's one of the things I want to specifically address here in a moment. But let me throw this chart up. So it talks about the mass shootings and compared to the total number of deaths. So just hold that so you can freeze it if you want to look at that very quickly on the video. So in 2016, there was almost 23,000 suicides in the United States of America using guns. And there were almost 14,500 homicides, of which only about 70 were mass shootings. There's another 1,000 or so various things from accidental death and war casualties and so on. So wow, you know. So one of the takeaways is, and it's later on here in the article, that suicides, if the article says that there's only like normally if a gun is not involved, it's only less than a 5% chance that someone trying to kill themselves will be successful. But if there is a gun involved, that goes all the way up to be like 85% success rate. So one of the key takeaways that I want you to have is, if you have a gun in your home and someone decides to, become suicidal for any way, shape, or form, the probability is that they will succeed if there's a gun in your home. Okay, so and you guys, you weigh the pros and the cons. This show is called the Pro and Con Show. Okay, you just like I ride motorcycles, less and more over my lifetime, and always wore a helmet. Well, almost always wore a helmet whenever I was riding. Very, very little time that I was on a motorcycle, I was not wearing a helmet. But that's my choice. The pro and the con. I thought it's well worth the inconvenience and in fact discomfort sometimes to wear a helmet. But the same thing with guns. So if you have a gun, it's an extremely powerful tool for killing. And if it's in your house and someone in your house decides that they want to end their own lives, if you have a gun in the house, you've basically made that almost a sure thing, is one of the takeaways. So you decide. Bunch of mass shootings, and it seems like that those are accelerating. So I want to say a word about that. So right now, and so I'm going to give facts up to this point. This I don't know is a fact. So going to offer some opinion here. So parentheses. I am not a psychologist, but it certainly seems like there is a small percentage of the human population that feels like they are misunderstood and worthless and without impact on society. And some number of these people decide that the way to become impactful, the way to become known, the way to become famous is to do something. And unfortunately, one of the quickest ways to do something is to get a gun and a whole bunch of bullets and try to kill as many people as possible. And right now, the way that our society is, we are effectively glorifying this behavior by, all the television networks and the online services and stuff scrambling for clicks or viewership ratings by pounding us with coverage of these kinds of events. And all that's doing is escalating and jacking up this perception by these people that, oh, this is a great thing to do, because now, this guy at whatever place, he's now famous, and I like it. I know I might end up being dead, but at least that's something. At least people will know me. People, and they sometimes they'll leave behind some kind of manifesto or whatever. Well, it's all about grabbing that attention. I know for most of us, this would seem like a foreign thing, but to me, for this fraction of people, this is a problem, and we are throwing, fuel on that fire all the time. That's opinion. Okay, now back to the BBC report here. What types of guns kill Americans? So the vast majority of them, it looks like it's got to be 70% of murders are committed with handguns, which makes sense, right? Now, people might, well, it's actually 60% or it's 80% or whatever. Well, it's a huge percentage. And does it make sense? Sure. Why were handguns even invented? Well, so that they could be incredibly portable and hidden. All right. So you walk down the street, you can, tuck a handgun in, down your spine or in your side or in the front of your pants or whatever, in a purse, in a little bag, in a jacket pocket, and the vast majority of people walking past you would never even know that it's in there, that you have a gun on you, and that's the whole purpose. But because of the modern weapons, handguns are incredibly effective killing machines. Okay, incredibly effective killing machines. So handguns are one of the big murder weapons. So let's see here. Let me go to then. Those are some of the facts, and I don't even. I mean, like I say, in the very best scenario, in the one that we should actually enact is we should spend some days with various experts, psychology experts, and experts on the guns, and experts on criminal activity and stuff, and talking about all this stuff, and get, there'll be some variation in the data and stuff. So okay, what is all that? But in the end, study this and all get on the same page. This is what this means. Okay. Now let's just presume that we've done that, and we decide that we'd like to do some things to prevent gun violence. Okay, to try to mitigate some of the stuff. So I've written down a handful of things, and one of them, not in the list, I just talked about it though, was to dial down the glorification of these mass murders. Okay, mass shootings. This is a huge thing, and it's going to be a challenge because the First Amendment says, well, I can say whatever I want. Well, that's true, but being a good citizen of the country may not. It may, and again, get some psychologists here to give some expert viewpoint here, but assuming that they agree with me, strong, voluntary, strict reductions in the glorification of these events on the various channels of information out there. And it's mostly television would be the big one, the cable TV and TV channels. All right, so let's just go through some methods for reduction here. I got a couple of minutes, so I'm not going to go into these, but I'd like to. So extensive national educational programs starting in the elementary schools. So get to the kids when they're young and educate them about guns, about what they do in society and so on. One of the big issues that we have is there's so much poverty and gang activity and stuff like that, and that's because we've voluntarily, for the most part, plus minus, people would argue about that, but certainly not an institutional segregation anymore, but kind of a voluntary segregation, and we've got to stop that. We've got to mesh communities together better, so that we can break up some of the cycle of poverty and lack of hope, because this is one of the main reasons why there's violence at all, and the formation of gangs and stuff like that is because of these issues. Greatly increased deployment of lighting and cameras, so around the cities. And by the way, the vast majority of this stuff happens in cities. So greatly increased deployment of lighting and cameras throughout the cities. Extensive community watch programs. Requirements for training of owners proportional to the type of weapon owned. So if you want to, have a bazooka or something, well, you're going to have some real training and psychological evaluation and stuff like that. If you want to have a handgun, it would be less. If you want to have a a 22 caliber rifle, single shot, rifle, that would probably be like the minimum one, because that's the gun that would cause the least harm in society, probably. Still perfectly fun, target shooting with it, by the way. Let's see here. Increased national registration requirements for weapons most commonly used in criminal acts. So register the weapons, which we do partially, but nationally register all the weapons and focus on, with a hyper focus on handguns and these assault rifle designs and stuff like that. Extensive training through public service announcements, so we'll watch each other, neighbors watching neighbors for problems. And this is actually identified a few people. There was a guy 3 weeks ago, I guess. He was arrested. He had 1,000 guns, and some of the neighbors, kind of heard some rumors and stuff like that, and they ended up calling the police. Police went to this fellow, and he's definitely has some issues, and 1,000 guns, and whatever, thousands and thousands of rounds of ammunition. Speaking of rounds of ammunition, banning high capacity magazines, so making them illegal. So one of the ways to make guns much safer in general and prevent mass shootings is, hey, if your magazine or your gun can carry more than 3 or 4 rounds, or maybe 6 rounds, let's say, there's no legal, normal reason to have a magazine with 1,000 rounds in it. You just need, if you're shooting, you're target shooting, whatever it is you're doing, you need 1 at a time, 2 at a time. For convenience, 3 or 4, 6 at a time at most. So get rid of all the high capacity magazines. Also, we could look at doing national sales registrations of ammunition. So just, if you buy ammunition, you just go into a national database that you bought ammunition, period. Why? Because if somebody's thinking about doing a mass shooting or something like that, and they start stocking up on ammunition, well, at least there could be this database that might flag it, and someone could say, hey, we should really go talk to Mr. Smith here about all the ammunition that he's buying, and try to investigate whether that's going to be a problem. Okay, and then requirements for highly secure transportation of guns. So one of my family members, a gun owner, has a great big gun safe, and he's got multiple guns. Well, he decided and somewhat routinely carries a pistol with him, and he left it in his truck in the center console, and someone broke in and stole that gun. Okay, that's a problem, because guns are incredibly powerful killing tools, and it has gone from a citizen that was trained and could be counted upon to use a gun lawfully into whatever it is, some kind of criminal. It's gone. It's in the criminal element now, and can be used to harm some future person, kill them, or whatever. And then the last thing in my list, not for any reason, is greatly enhanced activity opportunities for youth. And we could combine that with some gun education programs. So this kind of gets back to the poverty and the loss, the lack of hope and stuff like that. There's a lot of people in our inner cities. They don't have anything to do. They struggle finding work. They don't have money. They feel hopeless and stuff like that. We would be well served to put some handfuls of hundreds of thousands of dollars into each inner city, and have really great activity programs free for anybody that wants to partake, and strongly encourage everyone to do that, and keep these people busy having fun with their neighbors and friends, and challenging them intellectually, and having games and fun, but there should be a huge focus on that, because then there would be hope. Then there would be this feeling that going around with a gun and shooting somebody is not the best that they can do. All right. Well, again, I'd like to take some days to talk about guns in America, but in about, it's going to end up being close to 30 minutes. I've tried to give you a snippet. Okay, well, until the next show, this is Michael James Ott with the Pro and Con Show. As always, thank you for watching. I hope we can all be better citizens together. Bye for now.